Hi, everybody. So, as I told you all before, I'm not a Christian. I don't take the Bible literally. I think the Bible is allegorical. With that said, the Bible's message about faith was not about God, it was about us having faith in ourselves. At least that's what the Gnostic Christians believe. The Gnostics were the early Christians, right? Um, what Christians follow today has absolutely nothing to do with the original meaning of Christianity. The Gnostics follow an esoteric meaning of Christianity, whereas modern Christians follow an exoteric meaning. It's basically a version which keeps you enslaved and oppressed. The Gnostic version is more liberating because it gives you life lessons, but it doesn't give you all these rules that you have to follow. Like, it gives you guidelines about how to live a virtuous life. And I see it more so as a philosophy. But that whole story about faith and being able to walk on water, that was not about God. That's about having faith in yourself. So about 4 years ago, my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I printed out some clinical studies showing alternative treatments, right? Because I've witnessed so many members of my own family take chemotherapy and they basically just lose their appetite and then they waste away. Chemotherapy destroys the good cells along with the bad cells. So I've already gone through this with other people, right? And I've tried. One of my cousins had cancer, and everybody in the family, they just stood around praying like slaves. Nobody did anything to help him. I ordered some supplements and I sent them to his wife, and his wife didn't give him the supplements because the doctor said it would interfere with his chemotherapy. But that was the point. The supplements that I got him would have flushed the chemotherapy out of his system because ultimately that is what kills you. It's not the cancer itself; it's the treatment. I mean, you're going to die anyway, but chemotherapy makes it worse. Chemotherapy has an extremely low success rate. So anyway, I tried to get supplements for my dad. I discussed it with them twice, right? I discussed it with him over the phone, and then we went out to dinner and I discussed it with him again in person. And I made sure that he was okay with it. So he said he was okay. I printed out all these studies. One of the supplements that I got him was alpha lipoic acid, which alpha lipoic acid has a much greater success rate than chemotherapy without any of the side effects. Um, and then I gave him some supplements that would block his testosterone because testosterone activates the prostate, which um, leads to a progression of prostate cancer. So I spent a lot of money on these supplements. I did a lot of research, and it wasn't me trying to impose my will on him. I talked to him about it, and he seemed to be okay with it. Well, it was a different story once the supplements arrived at his house, right? Then it was that I was trying to force him to take these supplements. I think I'm smarter than him. It's his damn body. I'm like, What are you talking about? We had this whole discussion and you were okay with it. This wasn't me imposing my will on you. This is We're supposed to be coming together as a family, right? I'm Prior to that, I didn't even talk to him for several years, and so I reconnect with him in order to help him with his treatment, and he was okay with it until supplements arrived. So then he flipped the script. So recently, excuse me. Recently, his condition has significantly worsened. He lost a whole lot of weight. He has no appetite. He's been vomiting, and I talked to my brother. I was like, he must have been on chemotherapy. And my brother was like, "Oh no, he would never take chemotherapy." Um, I'm like, "No, there's no way that he would lose that amount of weight and be throwing up like that if he wasn't on chemotherapy." Sure enough, he was on chemotherapy. I don't know if that he is right now, but once you take chemotherapy, it's pretty much a wrap. I'm not going to say that there are no success stories with chemotherapy, but um chemotherapy has an extremely low success rate, especially if it's not localized. Maybe you have breast cancer or something, but if you have something affecting a major organ. Yeah, chemotherapy is not the way to go. And I don't know why people defer to doc. I mean, I do know why, and I'm going to be addressing that a little bit later. But that's what this whole live stream is about. So, um, where was I? So basically, that whole lashing out against me, that was not about me, right? Um, that was about him. And I don't want to speak ill of him because he's probably in the final days of his life, but he is a narcissist, and narcissists have low self esteem. They have really fragile egos, and so basically, when he was reading through this data that I printed him, he was not able to comprehend it, and it he felt, oh, I think I'm smarter than him, and so so that was a complete projection, right? He's trying to protect his ego, as opposed to focusing on the fact that I'm just trying to help him. What was I getting out of it, right? I'm just there to help my dad, which is what any son is supposed to do, right? And so if you don't want me to help you, then I can't participate in that. I can't just sit there and watch you die and do nothing, especially when I know there's something that can help you. At this point, it's too far gone. There's nothing that can be done about it. He can't hold down any food. He can barely drink any water. I just went over to his house within the last few days and took care of all of his paperwork. He because nothing was done. No arrangements were made. Um, no will, no living. I had to rush and get all this stuff done. I didn't even realize. I don't even know where all of his assets are located. I know anyway. I don't need to get into that, but it never had to come to this point. It never. I mean, obviously we all have to die, but he didn't have to go out like this. He didn't have to. He's in agonizing pain, vomiting, and I was trying to make sense of this. Like, why didn't he accept my help? Okay. Well, according to his worldview, doctors were put here by God to help us. I can't believe. I mean, I can't believe how different I am from him. Like, I don't trust doctors at all, but he completely trusts God. He completely trusts the government. He also thinks that the government was put in power by God to protect us. Um, and I think that way of thinking is extremely dangerous. Even in this situation right now, I asked him, I said, "Are you ready to go or do you still want to fight?" Um, he doesn't want to go because he fears going to hell. He thinks that this is a literal place. Um, I mean, I don't want to argue with him when he's in that condition, but I'm like, I try to talk to him on his level. I did bring up Schopenhauer, but I just basically made it about God that instead of talking about the will and its representation, I basically talked about God and how we are all one with God. And then when you die, you don't go to an eternal lake of fire. You just become one with God. Basically, just using Schopenhauer's argument, but not making it philosophical, making it more relating it back to Christianity. Um, he still believes that there is a literal hell. So he's going to lay there in agonizing pain and just I it's painful to watch. I mean, I know I'm not the one who's going through it, but there's things that could have been done to prevent this. He didn't have to go out like this. And even when it comes to him deferring to the doctors, he's not taking his medication. So the chemo or whatever he was taking has really destroyed his stomach and his digestive system. He's supposed to be taking these pills for nausea. But that only works if you take it according to their schedule. He's not taking it according to the schedule. Sometimes he feels like taking it, other times he doesn't. And so because of that, he's vomiting and he's vomiting blood and he can't keep anything down. He's lost so much weight. Um, But at the end of the day, he never believed that he had any control over the situation. So my intervention was not going to help him. He has an external locus of control. So now at this point, I have power of attorney. I can make medical decisions on his behalf. The nurse, I had to put him on hospice. So the nurse came to his house and she wanted to admit him for inpatient, and I decided, no, I want to respect his wishes. They can come. I mean, he's a veteran, so that's all covered. They can come to his house, and I'm getting him a medical bed and whatever else he needs because he doesn't want to leave his house. I think he handled this situation completely wrong, but at this point, it's too late for me to worry about all that. I'm just going to try to respect his wishes and make him as comfortable as possible. But even on his deathbed, he still doesn't believe that procreation was a mistake. He still wants me to have children, and he was trying to convince my niece to have children. Give him great grandchildren. Um, it's really interesting that as a Christian, he still is attached to this world. He's not willing to let go. When I was a Christian, I was completely detached to this world. I didn't have any fear of death. A lot of things would go over my head because I didn't care. I'm like, well, okay, this is okay. I didn't even include this in my like. I made little notes that I was going to say, but one of the things he told me in terms of me, being so stressed out about the government is don't worry about it. They're going to get their just due on Judgment Day. So he literally believes that there is going to be a Judgment Day and that all of these bad actors who have been making my life and everyone else's lives a living hell, they're going to get they're going to get just due. They're going to be brought to justice. This is so dangerous, right? And this is what a lot of black people, a lot of black Christians believe. This is the reason why they don't fight the system because they think God is going to take care of it. They have an external locus of control. So I can just sit back and just be a good citizen, a law abiding citizen, and everything is going to work out in the end. No, I mean, that's the exoteric version of Christianity they gave them, and they believe it wholeheartedly. I just I find it so disturbing that I mean, he doesn't have any peace. He's not going to have peace because even now he still fears going to hell, and he still would defer to the government over his own son. Who I mean, I'm not trained in anything medical, but I know how to research. That's my skill. I'm really good at researching. I can find information that I'm not going to do a basic Google search. I can I can research anything. And I found all these medical studies and because he wasn't able to analyze them and I mean whatever, even if he didn't understand them, he still should have trusted me over trusting the damn government. But no, that's not how these people think. The gov the government has become a civil religion. It's almost I'm not gonna say almost, I would put it on par with Christianity that, God and country is the same damn thing. I'm a Christian, I'm a statist, right? So, you trying to reason I'm not okay, I'm not the government, so I'm not God. So who the hell are you to tell me what I should do, right? And then the other thing that he mentioned was, when he asked me how I was doing. And I didn't really want to complain about my stuff. I did mention that my tree fell on my neighbor's fence, and I got to take care of that. And then he's all worried about helping me. I'm like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. We're just talking, right? But okay, when I was talking about the main reason I don't want to be here is because of government oppression. I feel like the government has complete control over my life. Um, and I'm not sure that he really understands the full extent of how, you know, I graduate law school, I can't practice law, I'm relegated to working a shitty job. My life serves no purpose. his perspective is completely different. And then even if when I was talking about it, basically I should stop complaining because he had it worse, right? The younger generation does not know true suffering. When he was younger, the police would harass him, put him in the back of a car, hold a gun to his head, and tell him, "Shut up, nigga." And because that's not happening to me, I don't have a right to complain about anything. So, I mean, this I don't think that most black people in in the black community would say that, or most people in the black community would say that, but that is what they're thinking. So, while they're complaining about oppression, they're going to continue pumping out babies for this oppressive system because at least their children have it a little bit easier than they had it. So they're incrementalists and they are negative utilitarianists. So the slight little progress that the black community makes is enough to justify breeding them into this system, allowing them to get thrown in prison and whatever else happens to them, that's supposed to be justified because we have it easier than they had it. Um, they feel they don't think that any of this is their fault, right? Because even when I was talking about my stuff, he told me that it would be selfish for me to terminate my life. Not that I'm YouTube. I'm not saying that I'm going to do it. We're just having a discussion. He wants me to live my life until I die a natural death. Um, but he says it would be selfish because he's not, because he's in his current state. I didn't want to argue with him, but what I was thinking, I think it's actually selfish to impose life on someone and then expect them to be miserable in perpetuity in order to make you happy. That's what he wants me to do. So he definitely would not want me to die before him. And so basically once he's gone, um is everything is fair game. Um I think that's completely ass backwards. Um I never thought that I was going to be the one burying him. I thought he was going to be burying me. I don't I mean, I know he's the one that's going through it, but it's hard on me to sit there and watch it. Like it's painful, especially knowing that it did not have to come to this. There are things that could have been done to protect itself before it escalated. In the initial stages, this could have been averted, but he didn't listen to me. And it's not even that he didn't listen to me. He didn't listen to himself. He didn't trust his own intellect, his own ability to read the data and make a decision for himself. I don't know that I could have fought to convince him otherwise because he just it would have got nasty, if I would have argued with him, and because it would have been an attack on him and whatever. So I think I don't regret stepping away from that situation. Um, from what I hear, my aunt who's been taking her, he put her through hell. And I understand what it is. It's a complete projection. Whatever he feels, he's going to reflect that back on whoever is around him. He was happy to see me. And he's happy that I'm taking care of his affairs because he did not want to die and have basically lose his property. He still has a mortgage and whatever asset he has is not going to be taken by creditors or whatever. I'm going to protect his assets. Um, let's see. But yeah, pretty much at this point, I'm all he has to show for his life, right? Um, and so people get through life by leaning on others, right? And to lean on others, life would have no meaning. So this whole thing is completely circular. It has no objective meaning in and of itself. But when you limit yourself to the terrestrial world and you don't have a transcendent worldview of just looking at things from the top bottom, and you can objectively see that this is bullshit, this serves absolutely no purpose, then all you can do is look to your left and look to your right to say, okay, well, I have children. So because I have children, I matter, my life matters. No, no, the objective truth is that he did not have to suffer. He didn't have to be born. That was a decision that somebody made. His parents imposed life on him, just like he imposed life on me. This wasn't an accident. Nobody did this to him. Well, his parents did it to him, but he turned around and repeated the same cycle. And even on his deathbed, he still wants to repeat the cycle. So, as an anti-natalist, I used to think that procreation was the root cause of all suffering. But before you can even get to anti-natalism, before you can get to the ethics or the philosophy, you have to address the fact that most people have no faith in themselves. They have an external locus of control. They are not moral agents. They're basically behaving, reacting to stimuli. They're not rational actors any more than a cat or a dog. Um, and the problem is that the people who are moral agents are bad actors. So the people who are or who do have ownership and agency over their actions, they are the wolves, and then everyone else are the sheep. So they get preyed upon. Um, they get to exploit their ignorance and their naivete for their own benefit. They know that the public trusts the government. They know that the public trusts doctors. Now, these doctors will prescribe their patients chemotherapy, but most of them would not take it for themselves, nor would they give it to members of their loved ones. So, I told y'all that the legal profession is a racket. The medical industry is a racket also. They only know what they know, right? They went to medical school, so they know about prescribed drugs that are FDA approved. They don't know anything about alternative medicine. If they have a protocol, any thing outside of that protocol is not going to be covered by health insurance. So of course they're going to push chemotherapy and radiation therapy. Um, there are rare exceptions where doctors do know about alternative treatments, but again, it's not covered by um, health insurance, and so they're not going to even recommend. They're not. Okay, this one of the reasons that I felt so confident about the information that I gave to him is because I don't rely on doctors. I don't. I treat myself for everything. Um, I had psoriasis. I cleared that up with the doctors were completely useless. They gave me some damn anti. What did they give me? Some a store oral steroid and some antifungal whatever pills. Or it didn't help me. I cured myself. Um, I treated my. They said I was pre-diabetic. I did every major ailment every ailment I've had. I've treated myself because I research and I find the clinical studies and I anything that you get from a doctor is going to be a synthetic version of something that exists in nature anyway. So why? I mean, you need them for lab work. If it's a surgery or something like that, you need them for that. But when it comes to medication, no, there's usually going to be a natural alternative that's going to be more effective than what they're giving you and without any of the side effects. So I talked to you all about okay, sorry. What I want y'all to take away from this for those of you who are anti-natalists or those of you who are activists that you have self-confidence, right? And it just comes natural. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of people are scared. They have stuff going on in their head that really cripples them. Um, you can't just present information to them and say you should do this, you should do that. No, there's layers to it. Um, I talked to you all about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Those growth needs, the physiological needs, the need for love and belonging, and self-esteem, and all that stuff. Most people don't have that. They're still struggling with the love and belonging and the self-esteem. So they're not self-actualized. They're not transcendent. Um, at their level of thinking, everything is emotional. Everything is about how they feel, and that again, that can be manipulated by whomever, the government, somebody, a salesman, whoever. Like they don't defer to their own thinking. They defer to someone else. They think that this world is fair and that somebody else is going to take care of it. It's not on them. So that is right. They're even when they're making a decision. What I'll call it a decision, but procreation for them is not a decision. They're just basically giving in to their instincts. They believe that God made that decision or that's just nature, right? So they're not rational actors. They don't have any resistance to it. They're okay for those. So when I talked to my dad, I was talking in terms of religion, in terms of Christianity. But for those of you who are anti-nihilists, I'm just going to use it in philosophical terms. They're giving in to the will, um, right? The whole thing with anti-nihilists is that you're supposed to resist the will, but no, they're completely giving into the will. They're slaves to nature. They don't have and they're not gosh, I don't want to use this word because I don't want to speak disparagingly about my dad when he's terminally ill, but in another live stream when I if I ever address Schopenhauer again, I'll use the term that he used, but yeah, I don't want to say that. I I feel sorry for him because at this point, I mean, he's done some things and, through to me and my brother throughout our lives, but now I get it. Now I get that the thing it was all about protecting his ego. He's extremely fragile. Um and whatever damage was done to him, it was done in childhood. His dad died at like 9. His mom was abusive from what I hear. I don't know. Um and it just completely ruined him. And so all those things that you experienced as a child, it goes on into adulthood. Like if you don't have the um nurturing and the individuation, you're just going to if you don't have individuation from your mother, right? Then you become it you get arrested development and then basically it shifts to where you don't become a mature adult or you don't become an adult. You basically just defer to the government or something else. You don't have any real intellectual autonomy um or religion. It could be the government and religion, basically different versions of the same thing. The government is a civil religion. So, yeah, I just think that most of us take our self-confidence for granted. You don't realize that if you have it, people are jealous of you. You can be broke as hell, right? I can be broke and I'm not dressed up. People are still jealous of me because I don't feel insecure about it. I don't care. Like I do things that I want to do that are not standard. I live in the hood. I have a flourishing garden. Nobody in my neighborhood does that. They look at me like I'm so weirdo who's planting flowers and shit. I don't care. I have self-confidence. I have the best yard in my whole damn neighborhood. I don't care what anybody thinks. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what makes me happy. This is what keeps me from being depressed. Um I I don't think my dad has that. I think he was overly concerned with what other people thought throughout his entire life and it really just took its toll. Um it's really sad. It's really sad. Again, I don't think he has much time, but at this point, I have the authority. I could put him in inpatient, but I'm going to respect his wishes. Let me see if I have any comments. Who's still here? Oh gosh. Yeah, lack of faith. So, um, for those of you who do have children, make sure you focus on nurturing them and building them up. Don't just be a disciplinarian and beat the shit out them because they didn't do something right. Because that's going to carry on in their adulthood and they're going to be fucked up. They're going to be, be in their 60s still coming to grips with stuff that happened in their childhood. So with that, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Like, for those of who came in later, I'm not a Christian, so just because you see the Bible verse, this is not about Christianity. I don't believe that the Bible is literal. Literal, I think is allegorical. Excuse me. Um, the lack of faith is not about God; it's about not having faith in yourself. That's the Gnostic version of Christianity. So, um, thank y'all for joining, and I don't know. I'm still dealing with whatever is going on with him, so I may have to take time off work and I may not be doing any content for a while, but yeah, I guess at this point it's not about me, it's about him. So whatever I've yeah, it just it does affect me having to see that shit, especially knowing that it didn't have to happen. It didn't have to happen for two reasons. First, he didn't have to be born. And then secondly, he could have accepted my help and protected his own health. But I guess we're at this point. So I'm gonna yeah. For those of you who just joined this catch it from the beginning because I'm about to get off unless someone has any comments or if someone maybe I can post a link if somebody wants to come up here. But usually, let me see. 'Cause I know there are other people who experience death in their family. And so there's the link. Maybe I should have done that from the beginning, but okay. Well, I guess I'm losing people, so I don't think I'm gonna stay up here. But last time I posted the link, they said I didn't wait long enough. But I'm going to go ahead and get off here. So you all have a good night.